out there, all you glorious freedom fighters. My name's Jeff Einstein, and I'm coming to you today directly from sunny Delray Beach, Florida. And yes, I'm easily amused. Woke up a couple days ago with a craving for pancakes. Now, I don't know about you, but when I wake up with a craving for pancakes, I either cook up a mess of flapjacks or I run right out to the local International House of Pancakes, where for only $5.99 I can whack back 2, maybe 300 pancakes. So when I get to IHOP, the hostess sizes me up and leads me directly back to the Do Not Resuscitate section. Instead of a menu, she hands me a Medicare Advantage plan. Study this carefully, she says. 45 minutes later, after extensive conversations with my wife and our estate planner, I order the urgent care breakfast special. 2 eggs, ham, sausage, bacon, potatoes, toast, and an angioplasty. The very next morning, I wake up in the hospital, and it occurs to me that my urgent care breakfast special came with a major medical procedure, but no pancakes. A few minutes later, my breakfast arrives, and what's on the menu? You guessed it. Oh, pancakes. Back in 2016, several years before COVID, I read a research study about what was politely described as our obsession with smartphones. According to the study, the average American, at least back then, touched their smartphone 2,600 times each and every day. And I remember thinking, I can't even touch myself 2,600 times a day. And believe me, I've tried. Maybe you've noticed that the most durable and profitable media stories are almost always about efforts to cancel or deplatform media personalities. People in the media like Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or Whoopi Goldberg or J.K. Rowling or Dave Chappelle. That's because what I call our national meta-addiction to all things media and all things digital has taken over as moderator and arbiter of all our most important debates, as all late-stage addictions always do, regardless of the narcotic. Now, addiction aside, the fact that I have every right under the Bill of Rights to say something that will offend you, and the fact that while you have the perfect right to take offense at what I say, you have no corresponding constitutional right not to be offended, means by definition that government authorities require cooperation and assistance from private corporate media companies like Facebook and Twitter and Google and Apple and Netflix and Disney and the New York Times and the Washington Post in order to censor or cancel anybody in the media. Censoring what the government is forbidden by constitutional law to censor is a dark and despicable function that corporate techno-media has embraced with a special perverse fervor in recent years. Make no mistake, this symbiotic corporatist relationship between the corporate media and the government in the age of digital scale is the single biggest threat to democracy, not just here, but worldwide. Democratic governments around the globe, including and especially ours, have discovered that they simply don't need to cancel or censor anyone as long as their techno-media and financial proxies in the private sector will do their dirty work for them. Just look how quickly and readily GoFundMe, banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions conspired with our fascist neighbor to the north in order to crush populist dissent during the recent Canadian trucker protests, all while the corporate techno-media czars and the elite leaders of once free democratic nations applauded on cue like a game show audience. The Italian dictator Mussolini, who likely knew a thing or two about the suppression of free speech, would see today's marriage of immense corporate and government interests exactly for what it is: fascism, the religion of the state. He'd see kindred spirits at work in Trudeau's Canada, and he would most certainly see fascism on the job in Homeland Security's declaration of misinformation as the #1 terror threat to our democracy. Of course, the government is the single biggest purveyor of misinformation at all times. Just think of the outright lies fed to us over the years by earnest White House, State, and Defense Department spokespeople, lies that were eagerly embraced, echoed, and amplified by corporate media. Lies like the fabricated Gulf of Tonkin incident, weapons of mass destruction, too big to fail, the Russia hoax, follow the science, the FBI-inspired insurrection of January 6th, and now, of course, they tell us that Putin's war against democracy is to blame for out-of-control gas prices and inflation here at home. As more and more alternative voices rise to challenge the corporatist fascist agenda of the global elites, the same agenda that champions endless wars and emergency declarations in the names of democracy, healthcare, and homeland security, we will witness increasingly strident corporatist efforts to crush the voices of dissent. But most of us will continue to believe what our lords and masters tell us, largely because we're late-stage media addicts and we're hooked on it. No one wants to believe that the media narcotics we consume for 10 to 16 hours each and every day are laced with fentanyl. The real problem we face today with the media everywhere in our lives at all times is that addiction is the undeclared but definitive objective of all commercial mass media. By design. And unfortunately, we entered the late stage of our national meta-addiction to all things media and all things digital way back at the turn of the 21st century, a full generation ago. As I state in my article, The Truth About Addiction on Jeff Einstein 2.0, addiction is never about a specific drug. It's always about a specific set of behaviors common to all late-stage addicts, regardless of the narcotic. That's why news junkies behave just like heroin addicts, who behave just like sex addicts, who behave just like cocaine addicts, who behave just like compulsive eaters, who behave just like alcoholics, who behave just like compulsive gamblers, who behave just like meth heads, who behave just like Netflix bingers. Yikes. Precisely because of our meta-addiction to all things media and all things digital, addiction is no longer the exception to the rule in American society. Addiction is the rule. In fact, addiction is now the default social condition and has been for the entire 21st century, at least so far. In the age of default addiction, HDTV, social media, and smartphones have emerged as history's most perfect narcotics, again by design. Today, global technomedia dealers like Google and Apple and Facebook and Amazon and Disney and Netflix and TikTok make the Colombian and Mexican drug cartels look like nickel-bag dealers in nightclub bathrooms. The truth is that all addictions, including and especially our addiction to all things media and all things digital, steal our time, our money, and our freedom. And the very first freedom stolen from us by all addictions also happens to be the most fundamental of all freedoms. The freedom to walk away, the freedom not to participate. The medium is indeed the message, and the message in the age of default addiction is appallingly simple. Eat all you want, we'll make more. So in the age of default addiction, or in any age for that matter, here's the best and only socially acceptable way in a free society to cancel Joe Rogan or anyone else you don't like. Change the channel, pull the plug, or just walk away. Remember, the best statistical predictor for beating or moderating any addiction, regardless of the narcotic, is repeated failure. Keep trying until you get there. We cannot be fully free until we can walk away. That's all for me, folks. Hit that subscribe button on my Jeff Einstein 2.0 Substack blog. And don't forget to share this video with at least 200 of your closest friends and family. Remember, skepticism is your first civil obligation in a free society. Thanks for watching, and God's love to you and yours.